we're at a small suburban stream in southeast London. Feeds into a larger river system, but this small stream, particularly where we are here, is narrow enough for you to jump across and shallow enough that you'd be able to fish it with just wellies as opposed to fishing with waders. Similar to a lot of small streams all across the country in urban and suburban areas. Good diversity of fish. We've had 2 chub out today. There are lots of rudd and roach in here. There's also some interesting things that you can come across, like carp. Depending on where you are in the country, of course, you've got a good chance of catching trout from little streams like this as well. Today we're just fishing with very, very small wet flies on what's called a downstream method, but you can catch them in a variety of ways: small streamers, little squirmies, even dry flies in the summer if the fish are rising. Really good sport, very close to home for many people. I'm sure lots of people have similar waters to this that they may have walked past previously. Free, really accessible. You can come for a couple of hours after work. I'd highly recommend it. Little chub from this tiny little stream. Let's get him back. So this is a small stream that most people would walk past, most fly anglers included. One of the common things that the passers-by say, oh, there are fish in here, because it is so diminutive that you would walk past it thinking, oh, it's got some sticklebacks, maybe some minnows. Where today we've managed to have quite a few chub, some nice roach, some gudgeon, some minnows. My colleague here has just caught a rudd behind me, so that's very, very good timing there. So information about these venues doesn't often appear in the angling press, on Instagram or on Facebook pages. You really just have to go out, take the risk, try a lot of flies, and be prepared for some days where you may not catch, because there will be a venue like this very close to home where you'll have chances of large numbers of species and even some really high quality fish like big chub, carp, or potentially large trouts. Fishing a downstream nymphing method that was developed by Skateboard Dave, where essentially you have your heaviest fly, or in this case a split shot on the top dropper, and two small light flies underneath, which will then flutter just above the stream bed. So this method is best in winter when the fish are a little bit more shoaled up, they're just holding in those deeper pools. But in the summer we would be fishing something a little bit more active. You can fish, of course, little dry flies, little gnats, things like that on the top. You can of course fish very small streamers, small squirmy worms in more of a traditional Euro nymphing style, casting upstream and letting them swing back towards you. But at this time of year, we know that fish are all going to be in those deeper holes, and we just need to maximise the time that our fly is in that bite area. And skate, there's no method better that we've been able to find than the one developed by Skateboard Dave. So I'm fishing underneath a tree here, so I can't use the full length of the rod, but it's a great looking little spot with quite a lot of depth, which is where the fish have been holding today. So the only way I can actually fish it is just by using half of the rod and lying on my belly, which is something that you have to do in these sort of overgrown, unmanicured streams at times. But it's been worthwhile. Managed a nice rud out of this. Oh, that was a savage take. That just missed it, whatever it was. So, despite this stream being about 6 to 8 feet wide in most of the areas that we fished today, we're both using 10-foot rods, and that might seem a little bit odd, but when there's a lot of overgrowth and sort of limited access, as there often is on these small streams, having that longer rod just means that there are actually many more swims that you can fish effectively, particularly from sort of a kneeling position or from a little bit further back from the bank. It also gives you the option, as you may have seen earlier, to break the rod in half, so to break it down, for instance, here, just so that you can fish some sections that you might not be able to with a longer rod. So it gives you a few options. You can, of course, fish a little bit further away, keep a lower profile, keep further back from the bank, but you also have the option of breaking it down and essentially fishing a shorter rod. So I suppose in essence it gives you the benefits of both. So because of the overgrowth, it's all bow and arrow casting. The good thing about these bow and arrow casters, it means that you can be very accurate and instantly get back into the same spot where you've had indications. So the flies I'll take for a location like this are pretty varied, and depending on the species that you find, you can catch on quite a wide variety of flies. At the moment, as it's the last few days of the river season, I'm focusing on small nymphs, things like squirmy worms, various small caddis, tiny waltz worms, a few bloodworms imitations, some very, very tiny streamers. And that's because, having fished this place a few times, we know that that is what works for not only the chub but also the rudd, the roach, and the other species. Even the carp will take some of these flies. If it's your first time you're doing sort of a reconnaissance session to a small stream, I would bring a fairly broad selection and don't be afraid to try anything. We know the average size of fish in this place is reasonably small, so we've got a lot of flies in sizes 18, 20, 16s, with the largest being around 14, maybe a 12 for some of the flies which are specifically for the chub and the carp. So one of the pieces of equipment that's vital in streams like this that are quite overgrown and quite small is a long-handled net. So today I'm using a 2-meter extendable sort of lure fishing style net, and the reason for that is, even though most of the time you're in the water or just a couple of feet above the bank, there are some spots, particularly in summer, where you're fishing over at the verges, and it is necessary to have that extra length just so that you can net fish that you would not be able to reach with a sort of a traditional trout net.
Yeah, I got back into fishing, and specifically fly fishing a couple of years ago. I live up in northeast London, so I go to like Walthamstow reservoirs quite often, but I really like sort of going and targeting trout on rivers, but I kind of thought that there wasn't that many options around, and then the more I've got to know about these little streams that exist in London where you can tackle all these different types of species, the more I've wanted to do it. It's my first time doing it, a bit of tuition, an hour into it, had a couple of chub. It's great fun, I can really see it being something that I continue with, because just a bit more variety in terms of what I have on offer on my doorstep. Another barrier for a lot of people, including me, is the cost of these things. You go to some of these places trying to catch some trout, and they can cost so much money, and the beauty of a little stream like this, which to be honest I would have overlooked, is it's free, right? And it's local, it's easy, an hour public transport and you're there, depending on where you live, and that just adds to the appeal, right?